not just a business owner or a content creator, you are a world builder. I was thinking about how, look, I have to get a Hobbit reference into every video, okay? So I was thinking about, like in Tolkien works or any like big fantasy novels, there's this like world building element where they're creating a completely different world, a world from their imagination, okay? And I know for my ADHD and for a lot of folks who get bored really easily, it can feel so like onerous to build a business because you have to like stick to the same thing over and over and over again. And it gets really boring. But like, what if we kind of approach this from the idea of like, we get to build our own world? Choose your own adventure. You get to create this into whatever you want it to be, and you don't have to continue to follow all these people yelling at you on Instagram and TikTok to like, just use this hook, just use this template. And like, don't get me wrong, hooks and templates are cool, but you have to be very clear about how you're using them and how they fit into the world that you're creating, or else you're just going to be like this mess. I always forget to introduce myself, so real quick. Okay, let's go. I'm Morgan. I've been in online business for the last 10 years, and I've helped tons of entrepreneurs grow their businesses. I started as a blogger, and I've really been creating content my whole life, among my other 137 hobbies, because I've had ADHD my whole life. Now, let me start with a thesis here. Your imagination, your side quests, the shiny objects, they are not distracting you from the world that you should be building for yourself and your business, but they are a guide taking you on the path that you need to go on. Okay. All right. Let's get into it. But not only that, I don't know how many times you've seen people say like, just be consistent. But number one, when you are just consistent, you're still not seeing the progress that you want. And number two, that type of advice is created by people who don't have a hard time being consistent. It's like neurotypicals when they tell you to like just clean, just do the dishes. I never thought of that. I never thought, why don't I just do the dishes? Because we don't work like that. If you're a busy mom, if you are neurodivergent, if you are disabled, if you have a million different reasons that you are not able to be consistent every day, that doesn't mean that you can't get consistent results, and it doesn't mean that you can't be successful. But we have to operate in a different world, and you have to kind of like create that world with your business. You have to create the world in which you're able to build a thriving business within your limitations and also special skills. Because not only does it feel impossible to follow these like strict rules and standards, but it also doesn't feel exciting or interesting. It feels like you're just like sticking yourself into this system that doesn't want you there anyways, number one. And number two, like doesn't actually align with your values, right? So I am all for like being ambitious and like going for what you want and like trying to manifest your dreams. But also there's so much toxic vibes and toxic advice that happens within like the business, content creator, boss babe, all those spaces that when you see that, you're like, oh, that's not me. But those are the people who are successful, right? So like, how do I become successful if I'm not willing to go with that type of thought process? If I'm not willing to engage with that, if I'm not willing to act like that, if I'm not willing to lie, if I'm not willing to skew the truth, if I have a different vision of like what my business could be, I don't want to engage with that. But like people keep telling me that's what I have to do to be successful. And it's like really confusing. And it kind of also reminds me of like when you're a kid and your parents are like trying to get you to do your chores, right? And yelling at you to like clean your room. And cleaning your room might be a good thing, right? Just like using a hook in a video, like that's probably a good thing. But when you keep like having it like shoved at you, it gets to be something that you're going to like rebel against and you don't want to do. And it feels boring and it doesn't feel exciting. It makes you not want to even create content. Just like, yeah, it would be cool to have a clean room, but like my parents are telling me to do it. So now I don't want to do it because it's a chore. But it's not like you don't want to put in effort. Like you're happy to do the work. Think about the last time that you got this like really great idea, this like inspiration of something that you want to accomplish. Maybe it was like you're going to paint a room a different color. You're going to learn how to knit. You're going to build a garden. Like, you have all these creative things that you've done that you get the idea and you like hyperfixate on it, and then you work on it really, 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 really hard until you complete it. You're willing to put in the work, but like, you need to be inspired. And all of this like formulaic bullshit doesn't feel inspiring, and it doesn't feel exciting at all, because not only is the process not fun, but when you use it, it feels like you're just getting generic results, you know? Like, let's say you use someone's ChatGPT prompt and you put it in there, and then you get something back that like, okay, it's X plus Y equals Z. Like, this formula makes sense, but it feels wrong. It just really feels wrong, you know? It's like I'm trying to read Tolkien, but I keep getting ACOTAR. And I like ACOTAR a lot, but it's not Tolkien. And so here's where I entered this idea of like world building, because a lot of what folks are missing with the business strategy, with the messaging, with the content, is having a bigger vision and a real brand, a brand message, brand values, a brand voice. And it's not easy to do. It takes effort. It takes thought. It takes creativity. But when you kind of nail this, then you have all this space to play with. That's when maybe a template will work, because you've got your unique perspective that you know how to articulate. And so then turning it into a hook, turning it into a 7-second trending reel, like all these things feel like easier and actually kind of fun. But we have to build this world, and this is where you have to pull your imagination into it and start imagining like what you want your business and your life to be like. And it's really almost in a way like manifesting, but I don't love using the word manifesting because it feels like efforting and working at it. And again, like once it starts feeling like a chore, I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. I want it to be fun. And the idea of building my own world that comes purely from my imagination feels both fun, and it's actually really worked for me in the past. So just like some really silly examples, like I've always homeschooled my kids, and I had this like image in my mind that I wanted to put these little desks in their schoolroom and have them set up in a certain way that I just had this picture in my mind of what I wanted it to look like. And I didn't need it, because with homeschooling, like they don't have to sit at a particular desk or anything like that. Like they could be anywhere doing whatever work. Okay. But I had this image, and once I created it, within like a couple months, we had found a really great online charter school that we put them into. So now they've got these little desks with their computers for their new school, and they're able to sit there and do their work, and they love it, and it's amazing, and they have their own little space. And it all kind of started with this little vision that I had that was just like this image that popped into my head of like what I wanted to create. And that is just like a tiny little micro example of what you're doing with your business, in that we're also not trying to force it. We're also not trying to force creativity. I mean, maybe this is just me as a human projector. A human design projector, splenic projector at that. But whenever this like a vision of the brand or the business or like the world building is forced, it feels like you can't, it just feels off. It feels wrong. But I'm sure there are these like images or these feelings that have come up for you, and like what you want to feel and what you want to see in this world. What does it feel like? What does it look like? What does it smell like? Taste like? Is it like an apple pie, or is it like a chocolate milkshake? You know, are there like tactile ways that you can relate to this world that you're building that will then impact like the types of emojis that you're going to use on Instagram, right? Like I'm using a potato as one of my emojis because my world is like the Shire, okay? I promise I have other interests besides hobbits and the Lord of the Rings, but it just always feels like a good example. When we kind of like create this world this vision of what we're doing and where we're going, then when we have these like bits of inspiration that feel disjointed and like they're going to be a side quest, they can actually be put into the main storyline. So for example, this morning I was on TikTok, doom scrolling, okay? And I saw one of those like trending videos that's like put book into the search bar, and whatever book pops up, that's the one that is like representative of you or whatever. And the one that came up was a poetry book, and the author's name was Morgan. And so I was like, oh man, like I used to be into poetry. I should start writing poetry. Like maybe I should become a poet. Maybe I should just like burn down my whole business and go write poetry. Okay. You see where this is going, okay? I know that you probably felt like that too. But instead, I started thinking, okay, like maybe this isn't a sign to go become a poet. Maybe this is a sign that I want to focus on how to bring more life and creativity into the words that I'm using in my content. Maybe I can even like have poetry as part of like trending reels. Like instead of just some boring ass like text on screen hook, I could have like a really great phrase that like came from my creativity, right? So I'm trying to like channel this like shiny object syndrome into productivity, into something that actually works. Because all of the things that we've been told forever and ever and ever and ever is that we have to like stop chasing shiny objects, like just focus, just be consistent. And like you can't. That's like just unaliving your will to exist if you're someone who's like neurodivergent or creative. And so like what I work on for myself and with my clients is how do we take all of this and put it into some type of system that works for you? Because let's think about The Hobbit. Let's think about Lord of the Rings, okay? Middle Earth is huge. There's a lot going on there. Frodo, Bilbo, like they all go on a lot of side quests, but they're all still in Middle Earth, okay? They're not like hopping into the Wheel of Time series, right? They're still in Middle Earth. And so that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to have our side quests still inside of our world and still helping us get to the point that we need to be at the end, right? Okay. If you hate Lord of the Rings, you can just turn this off right now. I don't like you anymore. No, I'm just kidding. You're fine. It's fine. But I'm just like, I keep thinking of these like good examples. So, you know, when in the Lord of the Rings, when they go into the mines of Moria, Gollum is following them and Frodo is like, maybe we should just like murder him, you know? He seems like a bad guy. We should just murder him. And Gandalf is like, no, he has a role yet to play. Okay? Your side quests have a role yet to play. Your little watercolor fun has a role to play, because even if it is not something that you actually show in your content, even though that would be cool, like you should show it in your content, that would be fun. That act of creativity will help you find other inspiration. Anytime that I like step away from actually trying to do something, trying to create content, I get like all these ideas. Like I'm in the shower, grabbing my phone, opening up ChatGPT, hitting the little microphone and like spewing ideas into it, because I stepped away and I let my brain just like do what it does naturally. And as a creative person, as an entrepreneur, as someone who's neurodivergent, like you have that. So don't underestimate the side quests. So what if your imagination, what if your shiny objects, what if all this is not actually distracting you, it's guiding you? But you are still in control, okay? You are still the sovereign queen of your world. You still get to say off with their head when it's something that actually is not aligned with what you want to do. And that's where having a plan, a strategy that you come up with, that you can then match these different ideas against and determine like which ones you want to go through with, comes into play. And that strategy should account for the side quests. To start with the most basic foundation of your world building, this is where you're creating a brand guide, a brand Bible. Okay. And I have put together a Notion template and a PDF that helps you figure that out. It lays all the groundwork for your world building so that anytime that you feel you're getting off track, you can revisit this. Like, you'll have an actual document, okay? This is like the history of Middle Earth. You can always refer to it, and you can find it in my link.